Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, Sulakshana. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
All the best, Sulakshana.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening, ma'am. Now, Sulakshana ma'am, you
Good
can
evening.
start.
Thank you so much, sir. Good evening, everyone. I, Sulakshana Goswami, hereby welcome you all to Kashidi High School's in-house training. Today's session is about teaching and learning style. So now I will start presenting my topic. Can you see my PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you so much. So today's topic is teaching and learning styles. So before beginning about teaching styles, let us know something about what teaching is all about. Teaching is actually one of the instruments. Teaching is actually one of the instruments of education and a special function to impart understanding and skills. The main function of teaching is to make teaching learning effective. The learning process would get complete as a result of teaching. So, teaching and learning are very closely related. Teaching is a process in which one individual teaches or instructs another individual. Teaching is considered as the act of imparting education to the learners in the classroom situation. According to Jackson, teaching is a face-to-face encounter between two or more persons, one of whom teacher intends to effect certain changes in the other participants who are students. Now, let's move on to the next slide, nature and characteristics. Nature and characteristics of teaching. Now, the first characteristics is teaching is a complete social process. Teaching is undertaken for society and by society. Means we teach students to make them adjust in the society and they can face any situations. So with ever-changing social ideas, it is not possible to describe the exact and permanent nature of learning. Next, teaching is giving information. Teaching tells students about the things that they know and students cannot find out themselves. Communication Communication of knowledge is an essential part of learning. Next, teaching is an interactive process between the student and the teacher. It is essential for the guidance, progress, and development of students. Next, teaching is a process of development and learning. Due to this process, there is a transfer of knowledge from a teacher to the student or students. It brings improvement in a student's opinions and thoughts. Teaching causes a behavioral change. The teacher will conduct activities in the classroom which will explain the logic behind the things happening around them. Students will be more intelligent and make positive adjustments in their life. Next, teaching is face-to-face encounter. The teaching process is conducted face-to-face because students develop a better understanding through the teacher and students' body language. Learners can connect with teacher and other learners to access more information and feel more confident to ask any doubt they have. Teaching is a skilled occupation. Every teacher is expected to know the methods of teaching learning situations and act accordingly. Teaching facilitates learning. Teachers teach in such a way that makes students question things around them. Students become curious to know more than the basic facts. Last but not the least, teaching is both conscious and unconscious process. Each teacher is working hard to explain the concept of their subject to students through different methods. This is a conscious teaching. On the other hand, a teacher teaches students values, ways of behaving, etc. indirectly through their behavior. It is a part of the hidden curriculum. Teaching is also a measurable, observable, and modifiable. That means we can observe students' expression, which can tell whether they are interested or they are understanding the subject matter. Learners can answer important questions only when they are completely interested in their subject matter, and it is a way of measuring the complete teaching process. If the learners cannot answer or request to explain the topic, then the teacher changes or modifies the way of teaching. Now let's move on to the next slide. Different styles of teaching. The different styles of teaching are: first, authoritative or lectural style. Next is demonstrator or coach style. Third, facilitator or activity style. Fourth, delegator or group style. Fifth, hybrid or blended style. So let's know more about authoritative or lectural style of teaching. In the authoritative style, the teacher considers learners as objects of influence and not equal partners in the activity. For this reason, the teacher separates himself from both the educational team and each individual students. The teacher gives a lengthy one-way description on a pre-assigned topic, while students take notes and memorize important pieces of information. It is popular in higher education when a large group of students is present. It is not a preferable mode for teaching school children. Students become closed because contact with the teacher is not established, which has a negative influence on students' success and progress, as they do not have any desire to study. Next is our demonstrator or coach style of teaching. This is the second style of teaching, and it has many similarities with the coach style. The teacher, as a demonstrator, retains the authority of the classroom. Instead of relying upon a verbal lecture, the demonstrator style combines lectures with other teaching forms like multimedia presentations, demonstrations, and class activities. There is little scope for teacher and students to interact, so it can be difficult to accommodate the needs of all students. This style is perfect for students where the teacher can provide a full understanding of the topic through demonstration. For example, teaching music, science, arts, etc. Next is our facilitator or activity style of teaching. This is the third style of teaching. The main task of the teacher facilitator is to facilitate and at the same time stimulate the learning process and create an appropriate intellectual and emotional environment in the classroom with psychological support. Teachers encourage self-learning in the classroom to encourage self to encourage students and increase peer-to-teacher learning. The teacher helps to formulate goals and objectives for a group of students or individuals and then create a free and relaxed environment that will encourage students to solve problems. It is important as a teacher, as we teacher, to be relaxed and openly express our thoughts and feelings and show children that we have confidence in them and their capabilities and show empathy. This style should be used for small groups as teacher needs to interact with the learners individually. In this style, activities are used to promote self-discovery and develop problem-solving skills which can often lead to the student developing a much deeper understanding of the topic. Number 4, delegator or group style learning. The fourth style is the delegator. The teacher, as a delegator, takes the role of an observer to promote collaboration and encourage peer-to-peer learning. The teacher inspires students by working in groups towards common goals. It is well suitable for co-curricular activities like creative writing, debates, group science projects, etc. The advantage of this teaching strategy is that students feel their independence and freedom of choice. On the other hand, some people may criticize it because it influences the teacher's authority. Last, the hybrid or the modern blended style of teaching. This is the fifth style of teaching. A blended style of learning follows an integrated approach to teaching that blends the teacher's personality and interest with students' need and curriculum appropriate methods. It is a modern digital teaching approach that combines traditional classroom techniques with computer mediated learning activities. Teachers prefer blended learning because the quantity and the quality of interaction between the participants and the educational process increase. This teaching method helps to create a sense of community in larger scale classes and allows students to access course material and master them at a convenient time and place. Teachers, I would like you to share your opinion, what teaching style you follow in the classroom and you prefer as the best according to you. Please write in the chat box that which teaching style you prefer. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide to watch a video on the blended style of learning which is adopted by a school in a foreign country. Thank you, teacher. I hope this video could clear your idea about hybrid or blended style of teaching. Now let's move to the next slide. That is learning. Now we have just now covered the topic teaching and the different style of teaching. Now we have moved on to the next subtopic, learning. Now what is learning? Learning can be defined as a behavior modification through experience, exercise and effort. Every creature is born with certain capabilities. These capabilities are known as instinctive behavior. As an individual grows, he or she has to make some adjustment in various situations of life. This we do every day. Whatever situation we encounter, we make adjustments to balance the situation, to handle things. This is what we learn. Therefore, he or she has to acquire various habits, knowledge, attitudes, and skills, etc. The accusations of all these things is called learning. So, it means that learning is not acquired by birth. We learn. It is a process where we acquire competency by using our already inherited resources. Remember, teachers, that temporary behavior change is not considered as a part of learning. Not only there will be a permanent change, but the learners will be able to adapt to their surroundings. Accordingly, we will find that sometimes during our life we acquire some bad habits too. They also fall under the category of learning, but they cannot be considered as the good aspects of learning. Now let's move on to the nature and characteristics of learning. First, learning is purposive, means we have a goal, a aim when we learn something. It's not an aimless activity. All true learning happens when it has a purpose. We do not learn anything and everything that comes our way, we try to arrange them in a proper manner in our mind. However, some experts still argue that sometimes we learning is unintended. We unconsciously learn something which is a part of our hidden curriculum. For example, when teacher comes to class on time, gives her work and correct the copies on time and return them to the student, it also impacts the students. They also learn that they should be punctual like their teacher so that their teacher can be proud of them. Next, learning is universal and continuous. Every creature till it leaves learns every day. Each and every day we learn something new. In the human being, it is not restricted to any particular age, sex, race, or culture. It is a continuous, never ending process which starts from the time of birth and continues till the time of death. Number three, learning prepares for adjustment. Learning helps the individual to adjust herself or himself adequately and adapt to the changes that may necessary to the new situations. We meet with new situations which demand solution from us. Our repeated efforts are required and we react to them effectively. These experiences leave behind some effects on our mental structure and modify our behavior. Next, number four, learning is also a process and not a product. We think that learning is a product, but it's not the truth. Actually, learning is a fundamental and lifelong process. Attitudes, fear, gestures, motor skills, language skills, etc., which we think is which are actually the products of learning, but they are not learning in themselves. Learning is a process which is something internal, personal. It is something that a child does to understand the real world and use it as a tool for survival. Next, learning generally involves some degree of permanence. Right now, when we were going through the definition of learning, I just mentioned that learning does not mean temporarily change in behavior. It will bring a permanent change. So, activities that bring temporary behavior change and do not last for long will not be included under the category of learning. For example, students mug up lot of notes so that they can score good marks. But after the exams, they forget and they don't remember. So the change within them for a small amount of time does not account for a permanent change and therefore cannot be said as a true learning. Learning is a change in behavior or response. It can be favorable or unfavorable. Means there can be a change in behavior due to learning, but this changes does not necessarily mean that it is an improvement or positive development. This changes can have a negative side too. For example, when there is few changes in our behavior on account of learning, something like smoking a cigarette, taking drugs. These we learn, we copy, we are seeing, for example, we are seeing our neighbor or our father or a brother smoking a cigarette and we are learning. Though it is a part of learning, but it is a negative learning and cannot bring a positive change. So we should make the students aware of the negative side so that they don't imbibe themselves with those kind of behavioral activities. Next, learning is comprehensive. The scope of learning is spread over every dimension. It's not just the books, from books we are learning or we are going to school and learning. We can learn even when we are cooking a dish, going to our music class, sitting and watching the beautiful birds and trees. We learn everything. In traditional literature, there is a mention that even watching trees, rivers, mountains, we can get immense amount of knowledge. Next, learning is organizing experience. Learning involves all those experiences and training of an individual right from the birth, which help him or her to produce changes in their behavior. It is not a mere addition to knowledge, it is the reorganization of experience, which may also include unlearning. Sometimes we unlearn ourselves. We try to forget something and try to assimilate and adjust to a new set of rules and knowledge. Next, Instincts and reflexes are not learned. Something like we call as sixth sense or we do as a habit cannot be included in our learning category. Changes in behavior or native response like blinking blinking our eyes in front at the reason of sudden sunlight or light falling on our face is not included in the category of learning. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide, which is about styles of learning. The term learning styles corresponds to the understanding that every individual learns differently. Learning styles define the way how people learn and how they approach information. It is a pattern of behavior that human beings use for learning. In our, we all teachers are taking classes, so we have seen that some students can understand when we show them a picture on a chart paper or a diagram, but some students can listen and learn and they can understand the change of voice. So every learning style is not suitable for every learner. We need to find out the appropriate learning style for each and every learner. An individual learning style refers to the preferred way in which the learner absorbs, comprehends, and retains information. Different learners learn in a variety of ways by seeing and hearing, working alone and in groups, reason logically, and sometimes by memorizing or visualizing. As we know, everyone is different, so it is important for teachers to understand the difference in learners' learning style so that they can implement best practice strategies into their daily activities, curriculum, and assessment. Now, we know that there are basic four learning styles: visual, auditory, read and writing preferences, and kinesthetic. The first one, visual learning style. This style of learning involves the use of images, diagrams, maps, and demonstrations to access and understand new information. It captures the attention of the learners with the visual aids. They are very excited to know what teacher is trying to show us through this particular image or diagram. This style of learning is preferred for the visual learners. Next is auditory learning style. This style of learning involves the use of voice modulation, audio notes, and music to concentrate on observing new facts with little effort. So, when there will be a change in teacher's voice, they will understand. For example, this kind of teaching style, learning style is suitable for auditory learners as well as teachers can implement it for teaching English literature to show whether a character is angry, sad or upset, happy. So that will strike the learner's mind and they are able to understand with little effort from teachers. This the students learn the best through listening and speaking like lectures and audio discussions. This style of learning is for auditory learners. We can use audio clips in the classroom for this reason. On nowadays, we all teachers are connected to the learners through WhatsApp group, so we can send an audio clip to them in the group so that they can watch and recall whatever is taught in the class. The third learning style is read and write. This is very simple style of learning which involves reading and writing of words. So merely reading out the words loudly and writing them again and again brings makes the learner understand and retain new information easily. The learners use glossaries, reading notes, and textbooks, and rewriting their notes out using different words. Next, number 4, bodily or kinesthetic learning style. This style of learning involves touch. So, this is the preferred mode of style for those learners who are who have visual problems. They cannot see the blackboard from the back bench. We can give our teaching learning materials and resources to them, and they can touch and learn and intake information from it. This also includes the group activities where students can engage in self-learning from the experiments they conduct in lab or language labs. These are learners who learn best by figuring things out by their own hands. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Now, multiple intelligence. This theory was developed in the late 1970s and early 1980s by Howard Gardner, who believed that there are 8 distinct intelligences that are closely related to each other and to the concept of our learning styles. Later on, one more intelligence was added to it. So there are total 9 different types of intelligence. Number 1 is verbal or linguistic. Next is logical or mathematical. Next, number 3 is visual or spatial. Number 4 is bodily or kinesthetic. Number 5 is musical or rhythmic. Next is interpersonal. Next, naturalistic, and then existential. So let's go through them one by one. So first, verbal or linguistic intelligence. These are suitable for the learners who have a strong linguistic intelligence. That means they can learn better by reading, memorizing, playing word games, using the internet, etc. They can play things well and use humor when narrating or writing stories. These kids can become a lawyer or writer or a teacher in future. Next is logical or mathematical intelligence. Learners having strong logical intelligence learn better by reading information systematically, playing strategic games, and asking logical questions. Every teacher will find one such student in their class who are always asking questions. Ma'am, why this happened after this? Why did that did not happen? So they are always trying to find logic behind everything they encounter. They have excellent problem solving skills and they like to conduct scientific experiments, but under the teacher's guidance. They can become a scientist, mathematician, engineer, computer programmer, or accountants in future. Number 3, visual or spatial intelligence. The learners who have a strong visual intelligence means any picture, maps, diagrams attract their attention and strike their mind that they observe them very carefully. They can recognize patterns and are very good at solving problems. So they can become an artist or an engineer or an architecture when they grow up. Next, let's move on to the next slide. Bodily or kinesthetic intelligence. The learners who have a strong kinesthetic intelligence might learn better by doing role plays. Now, this is very interesting. Role play. Little kids are very interested to play, especially the adult roles, and behave like that. Along with that, when they exercise, they do something, they like to review how they are doing, whether they are performing well. Along with that, they ask logical questions. They enjoy creating things with their own hands and are skilled at dancing and sports and remember things by doing rather than listening or seeing. We will see some kids have blank faces even when we present a diagram or an image. Maybe that did not strike their mind, but when we present it in the form of experience or ask them to do some experiments on their own, the logic behind that activity or behavior becomes clearer to them. So they can become an actor, dancer, surgeon, sculptor, or builder. Only learning by doing can impact their intelligence rather than seeing or listening it from a teacher. Next is musical or rhythmic intelligence. Learners having a strong musical intelligence might find better by listening or recordings, making up songs, rhymes, reading loud, reading aloud, and mentally repeating information. This is the reason we teach primary students in the form of a rhythm or song so that they can repeat and remember the information easily. It is also useful for those kids who can recognize tones and musical patterns easily. They can grow up to become a singer or a lyricist. Next is interpersonal intelligence. Now, interpersonal intelligence, kids learners can learn better by studying in groups, comparing information with others, and relating personal experience. You will find kids whom we ask them to read and write, they feel bored. But when we give them group activities, they are very much interested and even wants to be the captain of the group and lead the group. So this kind of students belong to this interpersonal intelligence category. They can communicate well and can see situations from different perspectives. They can resolve conflict in a group or a team. So they can become a counselor, sales manager, politician, or a psychologist in future. Next, let's move on to the next slide. Enter intrapersonal intelligence. Learners having strong intrapersonal intelligence might learn better by avoiding distractions, establishing personal goals, working alone. So this kind of learners are opposite to what we have now learned about interpersonal intelligence learn. They like to learn in groups, but these learners like to work alone. They can learn only when they are alone. They love to analyze their strengths and weakness, and they have excellent self-awareness. They sit and analyze the ideas and theories. They can prove to be a better philosopher, scientist, or a writer when they grow up. Next, number 8 is naturalist intelligence. Learners having strong naturalist intelligence might learn better by being in contact with nature. So we can call them nature lovers. I can recall an example. We know Ravindranath Tagore. He did set up a school which was in an open ground where students were in contact in nature and used to study there. The institute is still there. So this kind of learners are basically nature lover. They love to explore the environment and learn about other species. They are interested in subjects like botany, biology, and zoology. They may become a biologist or a gardener when they grow up. Last and the ninth, existential intelligence. These learners who have strong existential intelligence might learn better by delving into deeper questions about life and existence, such as the meaning of our life and how actions can serve larger goals. I can recall example for this intelligence is Swami Vivekananda. When he used to study in a school, from that time onwards, he had questions in his mind about the existence of God. And whoever he meets, he used to ask that whether you have seen God, how does God look? Nobody could give him a definite answer until and unless he could reach out to his guru, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. So this kind of learners actually analyze about the current actions, that what their actions could result and bring in future. They can become a philosopher or a pastor in future. Now let's move on to the last slide, and I would like to conclude by saying that every learner has his or her own pace of learning, but we can teach at a different pace. So we can adjust according to every learner so that nobody is lagging behind. For that, I would like to recommend few suggestions which we can try to facilitate learning for learners at a different. First, never present a lot of concepts at a time. It's bad that we have to do sometimes due to the pressure of syllabus to complete it on time, but we should avoid to present a lot of concepts at a time. Try to explain every concept and involve your learners to explain the concept. Try to engage them in conversation, ask them to relate with the concept, and if they can recall any experiences they have. Next, encourage learners to give examples based on their own experiences and observations if they have encountered any similar kind of situation. For example, if they are reading a story about a man who gets lost in a forest, if they could recall any incident when they were a child and they were separated from their parents, were lost in a marketplace, or same kind of situations. This will help the learners to link the concept with their own experiences and knowledge, and they will be able to retain the information and subject matter for a long time. Next, we may try a time limited strategy to increase the pace of learning. We may give a time limit to complete some activity and see what pace is the learner completing the task. If it is a group work, then we can assign a timekeeper for each group so that learners can encourage the students who are lagging behind to complete the task in the given time. Design some additional activities or exercises for learners who learn at a comparative slow pace. So we can give some activities which can help them, or we can go for remedial teaching activities which can help the learners to cover up and come to the level of other learners. I would like to end my presentation here. The session is welcome for your questions. Please, teacher, put forward any doubt or question you have. Thank you for your patience and for listening me.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a good session.
Sorry, sir, due to some technical problem, I could not share the slide properly.
Yes, there was some problem in slide. Your explanation was good,
It
but
was
due to
a
slide,
different
yes.
line, so I could not. I'm really apologize. Sorry for any issues. Thank you, Sumita teacher. Please, teachers, if you have any doubt, please you can put it forward. Thank you, Sunita teacher. Thank you, Shubhra teacher. Thank you, Khushbu teacher.
Thank you, Sulakshana.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. बहुत अच्छा.
Oh, Shobha teacher, sorry. Thank you so much.
Nice session, Sulakshana.
Thank you. Thank you, Twinkle teacher. Thank you, Ashita teacher. Thank you, Varsha teacher. Thank you, Shashikala ma'am. Thank you.